What's up? Thanks for clicking on this video. My name's Tom. If you're new here, I am a Twins fan, but we're going to talk about the rest of the AL Central. And stick around if you're a fan of one of these other AL Central teams, because I'm curious what your thoughts are here. And we can all be baseball friends. The season hasn't started yet, so we can all be baseball friends, as long as you don't let any Yankee fans through the door with you. Come hang out. Let's talk some ball. Going to go through team by team, talk about, kind of what happened in 2024, talk about projections, and then kind of give my overall thoughts toward the end of the video. So kicking things off, we're going top to bottom, bottom to top from 2024 with the White Sox. Not a lot to say here. Not a lot of reason to spend much time on this team once again. A 121 loss season last year, and I don't know if you can reasonably expect that they're going to do much better. They're projected to do a little bit better, but still fifth place by a landslide. In my notes there, I say, what can you even say? What can you even say about this team at this point? It's such a bad situation. The only position that they're projected to be above average is, or above the median, I suppose, is center field, where Luis Robert plays. We'll just move on. That's the format we're working with, the kind of information we're showing. Moving on to the Twins, fourth place finish. Last year, the unbelievably terrible second half, inserting the first half and second half standings into these graphics as sort of a pet stat to look at. That was just such a huge thing for it was a big thing in the division in general because the Tigers were so incredible in the second half. But projected to be the first place team in the division by FanGraphs, it is incredibly close, and the projections, we'll take a look at those. But you can see by the breakdown, the positions in bold and underlined are the positions where this team leads the division. So this is a position-by-position breakdown of where each team ranks in terms of the FanGraphs projected WAR. So you can see the Twins are ranked to have the best center field situation, the best right field DH, starting pitching, and relief pitching. I think even as a Twins fan who does really believe in this pitching staff, even I have to say that feels a little bit high, to be completely honest. The fifth best rotation in baseball and the best bullpen in baseball. Again, I'm not saying I don't believe in this Twins pitching staff, but those are some pretty lofty rankings that they're putting on this pitching staff. In the notes for the Twins, I put there, feels like they're the most disaster-proof team in the division. I feel like every other one of the other three contenders has a player or two where if you took them off of that team, they are screwed, essentially. You take Bobby Witt Jr. off the Royals, that team is screwed. You take Jose Ramirez off the Guardians, that team is screwed. The Twins, as we've seen, with a lot of their best players getting hurt, I think this team can keep rolling pretty decently if you take one guy here or there out of the lineup. So I think that's a big plus for them, and I think that's probably where they come out ahead in these projections. On paper, there's good depth, and as we look at the Twins' weak spots are at first base, second base, and left field, according to those rankings there. And I think Luke Keeschall or Emmanuel Rodriguez, who are prospects on the brink, top 100 top 50 prospects, really on the brink of the major leagues, could have a big impact on one or all of those positions potentially. On how things go. So, I like the way things are shaping out. I like the Twins' depth. I think the upside maybe can be somewhat limited because I think when we talk about upside with the Twins, it's what if these guys stay healthy? And I don't even know if you can do that. I don't even know if you can do that anymore at this point in Byron Buxton's career and Carlos Correa's career. We just know they're going to miss some time. That's part of the picture. Some of that is cooked into these projections. Like, for example, a lot of Byron Buxton's time is projected to be a DH. So the center field projection has only like 300 plate appearances from Byron Buxton in it, and the rest of that is coming from Harrison Bader and company. So yeah, we're not going to get too deep into every little detail of the projections, but that's the Twins. We'll circle back to what I think about how the division might shape out. But let's move on to the next team, the Kansas City Royals, who are technically tied with Detroit for second place. Pretty consistent team last year, and I think that kind of shows up in the way that they pitched and the way they played defense. That team was amazing at run prevention. They are projected by FanGraphs to have a 500 record and be in third place, just barely. Again, the Twins were projected for 83 wins, so 81 wins isn't too far off. Bobby Witt Jr., the best player in baseball, in my opinion, but the supporting cast is really lacking with this team. The only other position they came in first in the division on in projections was first base. Like I said with the Twins and thinking, I thought maybe the projections like that pitching staff more than is reasonable. I think this is a better pitching staff than it's getting credit for, in my opinion. 13th in the starting pitching and 14th in bullpen. I can see how they could get there, but I would think, especially the rotation, I have a little bit more respect for than how things shook out on these FanGraphs projections here. But, the fact of the matter is the pitching staff isn't projecting to be nearly as good as they were last year. And I think that could still be true. I think, them being the third best pitching staff in baseball is maybe pushing it in terms of expectations once again. But 13th or 14th on the rotation in the bullpen, I think that's taking it a little bit too far. So let's move on to the other team tied for second place, the Detroit Tigers. Again, that second half, a 600 winning percentage in the second half, like a 97, 95 plus win pace in the second half. Just incredible. They have the best catching, second base, and left field situations in the division per those projections. Pretty even across the board. There are definitely some weak spots. Jackson Jobe, as I put in the notes there, could be a huge X factor to their rotation, a really talented pitcher. Not projected to be in their opening day rotation, but I could see him spending, 5 months in the rotation potentially, depending on how things break out. Like, just because he's not going to be on there on opening day doesn't really mean a whole lot. The lineup overall is below average, and they only added Gleyber Torres. That has to be pretty frustrating for a Tigers fan, as even as much as if you love your guys that kind of had this great breakout and came together last year, you probably wish they would have done more. They brought Jack Flaherty back as well, but that was the guy they had most of last year, so it kind of feels like you're just sort of retaining a piece you had instead of adding. They have some guys banged up already, Parker Meadows and Matt Vierling, but I don't think those sound too severe, but that's, this is going to be a tight race, so anything coming out the gate that you don't have is going to sting. But youth is on their side. This is a pretty young ball club. Obviously Tarek Skubal might be the best pitcher in all of baseball, let alone in the division. And I think you could say the same thing I said about Kansas City. The Tigers' rotation, I can understand the argument where maybe it kind of tails off a little bit after the number 3. But for them to have the 8th best and to be 3 spots behind the Twins, I don't know. I might take, just because Skubal is so good, I might take the Tigers as the best rotation in the division. It's tough. It's tough with Flaherty, and then Reese Olson's there as well. So they've got some pieces there behind him, but yeah, that's a good rotation. Their bullpen doesn't project to be very good, and I don't really love that on paper either. Another good defensive team that's going to kind of carry forward to Cleveland, although they made some changes. First place team, 92-win team last year, consistent, great first half, 611 winning percentage in the first half. Only 2 games above 500 in the second half, though. A lot of their luck, I would say, tied to their bullpen. Just an amazing, maybe the best bullpen season ever. So they if they tail off a little bit from there, it could have a really big impact on this team. They traded away Josh Naylor and Andres Jimenez, two, not the most impossible guys to replace, but 2 consistent, proven veteran guys that they're going to kind of lean on some younger, less proven guys. They're projected 3-4-5 hitters behind Steven Kwan and Jose Ramirez. We can't just pretend like those guys aren't there. But after that in their lineup, projects to be Kyle Manzardo, Carlos Santana, and Lane Thomas. That's not great. That's not great. Again, this is another really good defensive team. Maybe that comes down some without Andres Jimenez there. It was just a remarkably good defensive second baseman. Jose Ramirez, best third base in the division, best third base picture in the league, according to FanGraphs projections. Difficult to argue against there. I'm obviously not a Guardians fan, but Jose Ramirez, I mean, that's maybe the player I respect the most in the league. He just does so many things so well. But yeah, the rotation, that's we're used to seeing the Guardians having good rotations. And even when they project to not have good rotations, they usually figure stuff out. So I think we can take this 27th ranking with a grain of salt. But, behind Tanner Bybee and Gavin Williams, like, there's a lot of question marks. And again, this seems to be an organization that answers those questions. And those question marks get figured out. But when we're projecting things out, that Guardian magic isn't in the projections. So I can see why they're projected to be as bad as they are. And the bullpen, being sixth, I'm sure Cleveland fans will take offense to that, especially with the Twins at number 1. Yeah, I mean, even I would have to admit, maybe I would take the Guardians bullpen over the Twins bullpen. Again, I'm a homer to some degree, but I will be realistic about it. Still 6. I mean, there's some great bullpens across baseball. There's nothing wrong with being ranked that high. What do I think? Here are the full projected 2025 standings in the American League Central according to FanGraphs. With the Twins at number 1, barely. Again, it's so tight. And I feel like that is the big takeaway. Yes, I do agree that I like the Twins' chances here. I would pick them as the favorite, but it's so slim. There's so many ways you can envision things going the Tigers' way, or the Royals' way, or the Guardians' way, or the... Well, no, there is no way this could go the White Sox way. I understand. We saw some crazy stuff with both the Tigers and the Royals unexpectedly being so much better than they were expected to be last year. But I can't. That's not going to happen with the White Sox. I'm sorry. Any White Sox fans probably know that as well as anybody. I called the Twins the most disaster-proof team, but you have to admit that with the combination of kind of good pitching, good bullpens, and good defense in particular with these other contenders, the Tigers, the Royals, and the Guardians, such good defensive teams. The Twins aren't like a disaster defensively, but they are not going to be like a top 10 even defensive team, I don't think. That's something that can be more slump-proof. If you have a really good defensive team. Now, if you're not scoring runs and your pitching staff stinks, that's not going to do you any good on its own that much. If you're a good defensive team, it has to be part of the bigger picture. But, those teams did have those other elements last year. So, maybe that's something that's going to be an X factor in the division that's kind of easy to overlook potentially. But kind of zooming out, a lot of Twins fans over the years, especially when they have been good, coming off a 4th place finish, I feel like as a Twins fan, we can hone in on the division and keep it there because it was a 4th place team last year. But a lot of Twins fans kind of hate that looking just at the AL Central philosophy. So let's zoom out and let's look at the rest of the American League. So again, these are the projected standings per FanGraphs, and the Yankees still, even without Garrett Cole, who is going to have Tommy John surgery, still just barely the number 1 team in the AL with 86 wins. But you see here, we can go down to the 9th place team at 82 wins. And these are all the teams projected to be over 500. 10th would be the Royals at 81 and 81. So this paints a similarly tight picture. The AL Central's tight. The American League in general is tight right now. But as I kind of commented at the bottom, we might see some trades that make a pretty big impact. Like Dylan Cease. If Dylan Cease gets traded to the Yankees or something, or who knows? The Twins have asked about him. I don't envision that's going to be something that happens. I don't think the Twins are in that kind of a win now mentality, but one of these teams could. There's plenty of other names, not in maybe bats, maybe bullpen arms. It's not super common to see trades, right up to opening day, but who knows? It could happen. But that's my thoughts. Twins are my favorite. I think they could do some damage in the playoffs and make a run this year. I'm pretty optimistic. It's really nice. Knock on all the wood. But it's really nice to be entering the season. This is as healthy as I can remember the Twins entering a season. Now, as Twins fans know very well, and a lot of other fans, that can fall apart very quickly. So just because the Twins have had an uncommonly healthy offseason and everybody's coming through spring healthy so far, doesn't mean that that's some kind of a lock that's going to carry forward. But it feels good right now to be a Twins fan and have that be the case. And yeah, I like their chances. I like this team. I feel like there's a lot of depth. Again, I feel like it's pretty disaster-proof. I like some of these names coming up. I mentioned Keyshaw and Emmanuel Rodriguez, but some of the guys we already saw, I think there's hope for Brooks Lee to have a better year. I think there's hope for, if there's more need in the rotation than it looks like, having David Festa and Zebby Matthews as plan Bs is wonderful. The bullpen with Brock Stewart coming back and maybe Louis Varland being an impact arm potentially over there. We know not everything's going to go break our way. We know very well coming off of 2024, the kind of disasters that could happen. So saying it's a disaster-proof team probably is getting a good laugh out of some of the other fan bases. But I like the way the team is built. I wish they would have been more aggressive, certainly in the offseason. Even some minor additions. You could say this about any of the teams in the AL Central. Maybe that's something we can kind of come together on. With how tight this division is, any other additions could have been so impactful for any of these teams. So it's pretty frustrating. And then it's even more frustrating when you look at the American League and think, gosh, the Yankees without Cole and with Soto gone. That there's a huge door open, and it just feels like a big missed opportunity for a division that was really good last year in the AL Central. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe once again these teams are going to perform better than expected, and maybe some of these teams are going to take a step forward. I'm really looking forward to it. It should be a really fun summer. It should be a great race. Good teams. Thanks for checking this one out. We'll talk again soon.